Hello, this is Ms. Czapkowska, and today I'll be talking to you about the photography GCSE course that we provide at Cannons High School. So, I would like to start by introducing you to our overview and what you'll be learning throughout the 2 years. In year 10, you will start on your component 1. Component 1 is 60% of your final assessment grade, okay? And then in spring year 11, you will also start your 40% assessment, and that is your exam, which I will be talking to you about in more detail very soon. So, in year 10, you will be introduced to photography. So this is just an introduction. You will learn about how to use your cameras. Then we will move on to, and you will learn more of the technical side of the cameras and what cameras you'll be using and how to set your backgrounds and how to use your cameras, how to use tripods, how to do fast motion photography, how to use the darkroom, and so on. So that's what you'll be learning about in the first project called Introduction to Photography. Autumn 2, so the second term, you will be introduced to the formal elements of photography, and then you will be learning about Photoshop in Autumn 2. Sorry, that was Autumn 1 I just spoke about. And then in Autumn 2, you'll be learning about Photoshop and digital art and how to use Photoshop. You'll be practicing a lot before you start your actual components. So you will be choosing your artist of your own choice, and you'll be working in the style of that artist, and you will learn all of the techniques that you will need later on. Then you will be introduced to manual photo montage. You'll also choose your own artist. So you'll be making collages. You'll just be doing a lot of physical stuff with the photography. And then you will start your theme project, and this is the choice of color project for the component 1 right here. So choice of color, students will undertake an exam question. Okay, so this is what you will start doing in your choice in your theme project. So for the choice of color, it's actually an exam question we've taken from an exam from a couple of years ago. We know that it works very well. A lot of students understand it, and that's what you'll be learning about. There's so many things that you can do with this question, choice of color, and you will. It's a very successful question in most cases. So this is your 60%. You will start with your contact sheet, your digital image manipulation, your physical image manipulation, you're leading to final pieces printed in A5 and A4 formats. So that's what you'll be doing. And then for component 2, by the way, I will get back to this one in a second and explain to you and show you an example of someone's portfolio, because this is your portfolio. This is what you'll be doing to start your portfolio. And your portfolio you'll be later on showing to your sixth forms and your colleges, whatever you apply for. That will be, the thing that you show them for them to see if you're good and if you meet their standards. Okay, so that is your component 1, and then component 2 is also your portfolio, and you'll continue it. But this time you will be given a question. And this question and this exam, actually, it's an exam, will be released by the AQA in spring term of the academic year. Okay, so they will give us a paper, an exam with loads of different questions, and that could be, here we've got an example. Consumer was one of the examples. Okay, so students would take photographs, portrait of people, so portraits, and they would conceal their faces. They would manipulate the portraits, and sometimes they would add different proportions to the faces, make eyes bigger or smaller. They would paint over the images. They have a lot of freedom to do what they really want to do, and I will also talk to you about that in a second. So that's a component 2. So again, you will have a separate PowerPoint. So the PowerPoint is your portfolio where you will be adding all of your examples of photography, of your experiments. Experiments, by experiments I mean your edits that you do in Photoshop, or edits that you do physically by cutting your photography and so on. So again, you have to have a contact sheet, digital image manipulation or physical image manipulation, and then this will lead you to the final pieces printed in an A5 and A4 format. But I will also talk to you about that in a second. Okay, so let's have a look at the example that I want to show you by one of our students. Okay, so choice of color research is what you would start off with. When starting your choice of color, you would do a mood board as well, and talk about them a little bit. Choice of color, mood board, and then you start with your first artist. You do a little bit of artist research, and then you work on the style of the artist. So in this case, Nakatsuya. The first artist usually is given to you by the teacher, and then you get to choose your own artists and photographers later on. But the first one is just to get you in the routine of making your experiments. These were made in Photoshop, and this is their own photography, and then they go on Photoshop and they experiment with them in many different ways. Then this is the second artist that they've chosen themselves. Okay, and this is choice of color again. So this is their contact sheet, photos that they've taken in the style of the artist. Again, some experiments in Photoshop and talking about them. And I will talk to you about the assessment objectives in a second as well. And then your further development, so you develop your ideas further. Okay, some more. Then your third artist, and then this is the student went into the dark room and done some light photography. Okay, so that, as you can see, they did this and they did all of this as well. And then they started to combine those ideas together here. Okay. And again, some more examples and combining. So taking two ideas from the Photoshop and putting it all together in Photoshop. So, oh, sorry, we went to this slightly slow. Okay, so the next artist usually would have more images, examples of images on one contact sheet. Okay, and then another artist, and then what they do is combine all of the ideas together. So this is that, and then another. So you can see the process, and this is the statement of intent. So writing about what they wanted to achieve, and this is the final ideas, and this is for the component one. This is the final ideas they did based on the artist. Okay, and then this example. Here, as you can see, you can really see which artist they were inspired by, but they've made it their own. So they combined ideas together and to make it their own. Okay. So what exactly is it that you'll be learning about in photography? Photography is all about looking, learning, thinking, and communicating ideas. It inspires creative thinkers. Photography means drawing with light. And that is what photographers do when they take a picture. Okay, so many photographers have explored various techniques to create images that make a personal statement about things that they are interested in, or things that concern them. The most exciting aspect of photography is that you are capturing the world as you see it. So you'll be learning how to use Photoshop, Lightroom. You'll be learning loads of different skills and how you can manipulate photography with your camera itself. And you'll be learning about portraitures, landscape photography, still life photography, documentary photography, loads of those things that you can do. But again, because it's independent, you will have the choice of doing those things. So me, Mr. Riedel, we will show you how to do certain things in Photoshop and show you how to use the camera, and then you go off and do your own independent studies with that. But again, it's a gradual process. So we start off with 10, we start very gradually. So we introduce you to different artists, and then you kind of do whatever you want to do with that artist later on. Okay, so you know, you will be learning the same thing, but your work will look completely different to each other's work. Okay, so you might do different artists, you might try different techniques for this specific artist. But if I was to show you another example of someone else's work, it would look completely different to what I've just showed you, where what the student has done. Okay, so loads of those different things that you can do. You can do portraiture, you can do landscape, but it's again, it's up to you what you go into. And this is great because it allows you to find yourself as a photographer and expand on those skills and get better at it. So by the time you finish your component 1 and you start your component 2, you'll be so good at Photoshop, you'll be so good at taking photographs, that you'll be completely ready to take this exam, this final one, which is 40%, actually less. But you will get more time to do choice of color than the second component. Okay. Oh, okay. So, what are the possible careers and options that you can go into later on? And there's so many, and there's so many, because this is just the start, and then you will go off to sixth form in college, and you might choose something more, something different. You know, instead of photography, you can do digital media, or you might want to do forensics photography. You know, you can do all of those things. This is just the start. This is what you initially learn about, but you will continue developing your skills and your own styles along the way. So the possible career, let's start with the further studies and career opportunities. Okay, so you can do animation, commercial photography, creative and editorial photography, digital media, fashion photography, film and television, film and visual culture, forensics photography, graphics, Swift photography, medical photography, visual communication, graphic design, many more depending on the portfolio requirements. And again, some sixth forms, you know, they might ask you for a portfolio and that's it, you know, and that will be enough. They might not even ask you to for an interview, just ask for a portfolio, and if they see that yes, you've ticked all their boxes, then that's fine. And there's so many different things that you can do again, but it depends on the portfolio requirements. So the career options that you can go into later on are commercial photographers, fashion photography, filmmaker, fine art photographer, forensics photographer, industrial photographer, medical photographer, nature photographer, photographic illustrator, photographic technician, teacher, photojournalist, picture editor, researcher, social photographer, sports photographer, and again many more. Okay, so along the way you might get into animation in your photography course. It's really up to you again. So there is some students of ours in the past that just, you know, done some animations with their photography, and that's what they really liked and that's what they were good at, so they continued expanding on their ideas. Okay, so let's just quickly talk about assessment objectives. Let's go back to the example here, and there is 4 assessment objectives. Assessment objective 1 is the research that you do for your artist, but this is very, very important because you have to talk about your own your own opinions about the artist and what you can do and why you did it. So there is quite a lot of writing, but again, it's all based on your own opinions, so it's not like there's a right or wrong answer to it. If you say, I don't like this artist's work, but something about it was very interesting, that's why I decided to pursue this artist, you know, I can't tell you, no, that's wrong. You can't say you don't like the artist. It's all about your opinion for this one. Your assessment objective 2 is your experiment. So these things that you do, those edited examples that you do in Photoshop, okay? So example, this is one of the examples. Again, this is an example of the experiment. This is an example. And remember, this is actually just halfway through. This is not a full PowerPoint. This is just some things that I've picked out on. There's many more slides here that I didn't show you because there was no point of doing that. So I just kind of picked out the best parts of it. So there is a lot of experiments here. Okay, so you see how this person's developed their ideas and they further develop their ideas. This is the initial idea, and this is what they did later on. to even expand on it further. And that's your assessment objective 2. Your assessment objective 3 is the annotations that you do here. Okay, so the things that you talk about when you explain why you did it. Why did you decide to add this? And you have to have reasons for it, and you have to tell the examiner and tell us why you did those things. For assessment objective 4, it's simply your final ideas. This is your final ideas, and this is your assessment objective 4. Why? Because this is your final response to the whole course, to the whole course that you did. So this is your assessment objective 4. Okay. Let's talk about the exam quickly. So you will have an exam, and the exam is 10 hours, and I know a lot of you might get a little bit concerned about that. Miss, why is it 10 hours? Okay. This is what you'll be doing within those 10 hours. But if you want to prepare them earlier, that is also fine. You might want to continue working your portfolio within your exam time. Okay, so the exam is 10 hours, but it's not as scary as it sounds. You just be working in Photoshop or adding some more annotations if you want to. Okay, so it's really, really not as scary as it sounds. Okay, it's nothing to do with written work. It's all practical stuff. Okay, it's all visual, creative arts, and you're working practically throughout the whole course. Okay. Okay. Some of you might ask me, is there going to be any art in photography? We are expecting you to do just one little drawing, but it really isn't. There is no emphasis on art in photography. So if you're worried about, Miss, I'm not so good at drawing, don't worry about it too much. Okay, it's not a necessity to be good at drawing in photography. Don't worry about it too much. Okay, most of it is digital art, so you'll be working digitally on a computer. If you are good at art and you want to add some drawings to your photography, that's absolutely fine as well. Okay, so really don't think that you're limited because you might not be so good at art. I think that is about it. Yeah, I think that's about it. If you have any questions, please email me or Mr. Riedel. In photography it's me, Mr. Riedel, and Ms. Barnes. Ms. Barnes is always there to help us out as well. We all guide you and we help you out. And the work, photography is great just because of the independent kind of choice that you have to do whatever you want with your photography. Okay, so that is really great. And if you are wondering, Miss, should I, is this like a heavy subject? Is there a lot of theory-based stuff? No, it isn't like that at all. The environment and the atmosphere in a classroom is very nice and peaceful, and it's practical. So everyone's just getting on with their work, and you'll have access to Photoshop. You will learn how to use Adobe programs and how to use Lightroom and Photoshop mainly. But if you want to do Illustrator, if you want to go and learn a little bit more about Illustrator, that's fine also. So you will gain all those skills, and you will enjoy it. If you are thinking about it, please email me or Mr. Riedel if you have any questions, and good luck.